So, a fantastic content creator called ShaneBrained has been going through the Fire Emblem series and creating a retrospective for each entry, and they're excellent and thought-provoking videos that I think any Fire Emblem fan would enjoy. But there is a point he brought up in his recent Fire Emblem 6 retrospective that I heavily disagree with, and as I saw the topic as a potentially interesting point of discussion, I thought, what the heck, maybe a short video essay is in order. So today I wish to briefly discuss the 2RN system that the Fire Emblem series has utilized in most entries since FE6, only shaking up the formula recently from Fates onwards, and why I think it's a fantastic system, both in execution and implementation. And I'm probably just going to throw some FE6 footage in the background just for the sake of efficiency. So, on the off chance that anyone has found this video before seeing ShaneBrained's FE6 video, you should definitely go watch it, but before jumping straight into my argument for why the system is perfectly implemented, in my opinion, I will briefly explain exactly what the 2RN system is. Put frankly, the 2RN system is a sort of background calculation the games perform when rolling to see if a unit attacking can land their hit. Rather than rolling a single number and comparing it to the hit percentage displayed, the game secretly rolls two numbers in the background, averages them, and uses that result to check for hit. I'll put a chart on screen to show exactly what effect the system has on displayed hit versus real hit, or true hit as the system has been called, but essentially, numbers below 50% have a lower than displayed chance to hit, and numbers 50% and above have a higher than displayed chance to hit. For example, a displayed 30% is really an 18.3% true hit, whereas 70% is really an 82.3% true hit. I think the reasoning for the system's introduction is rather nuanced, and while I have no way of directly confirming this is the intent, nevertheless I find it to be a direct effect of the system's implementation. That is, the 2RN system is a methodology that more accurately communicates the chance of attacks landing to the player. Now, I know this is a very strange claim to make, as mathematically it does the exact opposite, lying to the player about the exact chance for their attacks to land, but in a way, I find that the true hit system, while displaying inaccurate hit percentages, communicates to players based on their perception of what a percentage actually means. Let's look at a fictional turn and heavily simplify the numbers for the most easily communicated example. Say I have 10 units on the field, and against every enemy unit I have an 80% chance to hit. Now, statistically, under a 1RN system, only 8 of those 10 units would land their attack, meaning 2 would miss. This seems fair, and it is, and the system functions well and didn't necessarily need to be changed. But if we go back to that hypothetical turn and watch 2 units miss an 80% chance hit, the player feels slighted. Yes, an 80% chance to hit isn't reliable in a desperate situation, but we feel like it is reliable. In my personal experience, anytime I see a number above the 70s range, I feel it's almost assured, despite the fact that the number truly only is going to work 4 out of every 5 times. The opposite works in the same way. When you place Rutger in the southwest corner of Arcadia to hold off an onslaught of 15 to 20 brigands, each with a 15 to 25% chance to hit him, you feel like he's safe. Sure, he's taking a lot of attacks, but his chance to dodge is so high, it's almost not worth worrying about. The reality is, however, if he's dodging 6 or so axes a turn for several turns, under standard odds, those brigands would be able to hit and kill him before long, despite how safe the numbers look. A 25% chance feels like a sure miss, but under a single RN system, it's in reality a very likely possibility. This is a lot of hypotheticals and oversimplification, but the point I'm trying to make is that by lying to the player, the game is more accurately portraying our perception of the RNG, rather than the actual and often more frustrating to deal with true numbers. Now, what exactly are the negative ramifications of this? ShaneBrained has several ideas of negative consequences of the system, and before going into them, I want to state that in no way is this meant to be a slight or insult against him, but merely an attempt to put forth some of my own reasons for finding the 2RN system to be well executed, and to debate some of the points he brought up. The first major point he uses is that the true hit system creates the least balanced game in the series, as with Binding Blade, and that it makes axe users terrible characters, going as far as to call the true hit system a nerf due to their generally low hit rates. But this is a point that simply is not accurate in the game at large, at least for player-controlled units. Bad as hit rates are in Binding Blade as a whole, axe hit rates, even early game, are commonly in the 55 to 65% range, which, while not what I would call good, is still on the half of the spectrum getting boosted hit rates from true hit rather than nerfed. Now, there are cases in which player hit rates can dip below 50%, but this is generally against bosses on Binding Blade's absurdly buffed thrones, or Gonzalez in his first levels, who is admittedly an outlier, but in general, the reason axe users feel particularly bad in Binding Blade is not because of True Hit or its lies affecting the numbers, but simply that most pure axe users in Binding Blade, especially in the early game, are bad units. Lot, Wade, and sadly even Gonzalez are just not good statistically, and as you promote your Cavaliers or give axes to characters like Marcus or Jarrett, it becomes clear that axes themselves are not the problem, but rather the units that often wield them. True Hit universally buffs the player's units in most cases, fudging the numbers to more accurately represent player perceptions, thus not causing any balance disparities. After all, if everyone's super, nobody is. ShaneBrained goes on to call the implementation of the system thoughtless, claiming combat becomes less about genuine challenge and more about breaking the system, a statement I feel drastically exaggerated the impact of True Hit as a system. At its most extreme, it creates about a 12% disparity, ultimately only adjusting some roles to be more favorable, again to make the player feel as though the game is more fair and less RNG-centric, allowing those 80% hits to connect 90% of the time instead, and keeping players from feeling cheated by bad luck, while still allowing a room for RNG to do its part. Lastly, I would like to look at his final point on the matter, one clarified in the comments of his video, saying that while he has no issues with the 2RN system in theory, its implementation of effectively lying to the player by showing the numbers in the battle forecast as though they are single RN is the problem, and that if the game rather displayed the exact values calculated through a 2RN system, there would be no issue. However, this defeats the entire purpose of the 2RN system, throwing everything about intended perception out the window to instead show the numbers exactly how they are, and unnecessarily. Hit percentage is not a factor like damage, defense, or amount to heal that needs to often be calculated to an exact science. In most cases, a 95% chance and a 98% chance are going to have an identical result. Because it is a measure of chance, it is not necessary for the player to have an exact, precise number, but in most cases, preferable to have a number that most accurately communicates to our perception of chance, in order to not cause players to feel slighted. To this end, to show a 2RN system's chances exactly as they are defeats the entire purpose of the system, only making on-the-fly, quick calculations of hit chances from across the map much harder to perform with a more complicated formula. With all of that said, a lot of this is purely opinion, and as this video was made purely in the interest of promoting discussion, if anyone sees a hole in my argument and wants to bring that up and further that discussion, by all means, please do so. Fire Emblem games are extremely nuanced, and there exist almost limitless topics like this worth discussing, and I find those discussions to be a large part of what makes the Fire Emblem community such an entertaining and thought-provoking place. With that, I'll catch you guys later, hopefully with the lengthier video essay on Edelgard I've been working on for some time, and hope to release soon. Peace.